What if history isn't a straight line? We're often taught a simple story of progress, from early humans to us. But what if there are objects that don't quite fit that neat timeline? Artifacts that seem to pop up in the wrong place at the wrong time. These aren't just curiosities, they are puzzles that make us ask questions. Mainstream science has answers for many of them, explaining them away as misinterpretations, natural formations, or even clever hoaxes. These explanations are often perfectly logical, and yet these objects continue to fascinate us because they challenge our assumptions. They hint that the past might be more complex and mysterious than we think. Today, we're looking at some of these so-called forbidden artifacts. We'll examine the evidence, explore the controversies, and see how science has tackled these incredible puzzles. We're going to journey into a world where the artifacts are real, but their stories are hotly debated. The London Hammer. Our first stop is a small town called London in Texas. In 1936, a couple named Max and Emma Hahn were walking along a creek and spotted a strange rock with a piece of wood sticking out of it. They took it home, and years later, their son broke it open. Inside was a metal hammerhead encased in stone. This is the London Hammer, and its story became a legend. Proponents of a great mystery claimed the rock was Ordovician limestone, an incredible 400 million years old. If true, that would mean a modern-style hammer existed long before humans, or even dinosaurs. This idea made the hammer a star exhibit for those who believe in out-of-place artifacts, or OOPArts. It was bought in 1983 by creationist Carl Bohr, who promoted it as a pre-flood discovery. Stories circulated that its metal was a unique alloy of 96.6% iron, 2.6% chlorine, and 0.74% sulfur. Impossible to create with modern tech and showing no rust. However, the scientific explanation is much more down to earth. Geologists have pointed out that the rock isn't ancient bedrock at all. It's a concretion. This is a natural geological process where minerals in water harden around an object. In this case, the hammer. It's similar to how a stalactite forms in a cave and can happen over a few decades or centuries, not millions of years. It's very likely that a 19th century miner whose tool the hammer resembles simply dropped it. Over time, soluble minerals from the surrounding limestone formed a hard nodule around it. As for the unique metal composition, those claims have not been verified by credible peer-reviewed labs, and experts point out that the composition isn't as strange as it sounds. So what is the London Hammer? Is it an earth-shattering paradox? Or is it a 19th century tool that became the nucleus for a fascinating and relatively recent geological formation? While the mystery is compelling, the evidence points to a case of misunderstood geology, leaving the hammer caught between a rock and a hard place. The Antikythera mechanism. Picture the ancient world, over 2 millennia ago. What technology comes to mind? Simple tools, maybe. Now, what if I told you that someone in that era built a machine so complex, it's often called the world's first analog computer? This is the story of the Antikythera mechanism. In 1901, sponge divers discovered an ancient Roman-era shipwreck near the Greek island of Antikythera. Among the statues and pottery, they found a corroded lump of bronze. Months later, an archaeologist noticed it had split, revealing a stunning system of interlocking gears. This was the Antikythera mechanism. Using advanced X-rays, researchers have spent decades studying the 82 surviving fragments. They've uncovered a hand-cranked astronomical calculator of mind-boggling precision. Housed in a shoebox-sized case, its dozens of bronze gears could predict the positions of the sun, moon, and the 5 planets known to the ancients. It tracked the phases of the moon, predicted eclipses, and even accounted for irregularities in the moon's orbit, a display of immense scientific knowledge. The device's level of sophisticated gearing was unmatched in Europe for over 1,000 years. So how did they build this? The mechanism's existence proves that we have drastically underestimated the engineering skills of the ancient Greeks. It's a technological marvel that seems to appear from nowhere, with no known predecessors. It's like finding a laptop in a medieval castle. This out-of-time quality has made it a favorite for theories about alien technology. Mainstream scholars, however, see it not as proof of aliens, but as evidence of a rich tradition of mechanical engineering that was almost entirely lost to history. The wreck was just one ship. How many other incredible devices lie at the bottom of the sea? Research continues to reveal its secrets. Recent analysis using advanced statistical models has provided strong evidence that a calendar ring on the device had 354 holes, aligning with the Greek lunar calendar. The analysis also showed the holes were positioned with an incredible average accuracy of just 0.0028 millimeters. The Antikythera mechanism is the ultimate forbidden artifact, not because it's a hoax, but because it's undeniably real. It sits in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, a brilliant bronze puzzle that forces us to rethink what our ancestors were capable of. The Sabu disc in 1936 in the ancient Egyptian necropolis of Saqqara, British archaeologist Walter Brian Emery was excavating the 5,000-year-old tomb of a high-ranking official named Sabu. Among the usual funerary items, he found something so strange its function remains a complete mystery. This is the Sabu disc. The object is a circular bowl, about 24 inches in diameter, carved from a stone called metasiltstone, or schist. What makes it bizarre is its shape. From its rim, 3 thin lobes curve inwards toward a central hole, giving it the uncanny look of a modern steering wheel or propeller. The first puzzle is how it was made. Schist is a brittle, layered rock that flakes easily. Carving it into this delicate, complex shape would have been an immense challenge for ancient artisans using the copper and stone tools of the time. This incredible craftsmanship is a testament to their skill. The bigger mystery, though, is its purpose. What was it for? Egyptologists are officially stumped. Emery suggested it might have been a ceremonial vessel on a stand, but no stand was found. Other ideas include an ornate tray or a ritual lamp. Because the stone is so fragile, it was almost certainly not for heavy-duty practical use. But these explanations don't satisfy everyone. The object's design looks too functional, like it was meant to do something. This has led to a flood of alternative theories. Engineers have pointed out its shape seems well suited for moving air or water. Could it have been a flywheel or part of a water pump? More imaginative theories have suggested it's a stone replica of a more advanced metal part from a lost civilization, or even a component of an alien hyperdrive. Mainstream Egyptology rejects these ideas, citing a total lack of evidence for such machines. The most likely explanation remains that its function was ritualistic or decorative and is simply unknown to us. And yet, the Sabu disc sits in the Cairo Museum, a baffling piece of art. It looks like part of a machine, but its true purpose is a 5,000-year-old secret. The James Ossuary. Some artifacts are controversial not because they suggest lost technologies, but because they touch the heart of faith and history. Few objects do this more than a simple limestone box known as the James Ossuary. An ossuary is a bone box used in first-century Jewish burial practices. This particular box, which gained worldwide attention in 2002, is famous for an Aramaic inscription on its side. Yaakov bar Yosef Akui di Yeshua. James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus. If authentic, this would be the earliest known archaeological reference to Jesus Christ. The owner, an Israeli collector named Oded Golan, said he bought it in the 1970s. The announcement caused a sensation, but controversy followed almost immediately. In 2003, The Israel Antiquities Authority, IAA, declared the inscription a forgery. They agreed the box itself was an authentic 2,000-year-old ossuary, but claimed the crucial part, brother of Jesus, was a modern addition carved to dramatically increase its importance. Oded Golan was arrested and put on trial in a legal battle that lasted 7 years. The prosecution's experts argued that the style of the letters in Brother of Jesus was different and looked more modern. Golan's defense team, however, presented their own experts. Geologists testified that the patina, the thin film that forms on ancient objects, was consistent across the entire inscription, something that would be nearly impossible to fake. In 2012, the judge acquitted Golan of the forgery charges. However, the verdict was carefully worded. The judge stated that the prosecution had failed to prove forgery beyond a reasonable doubt, which does not mean the inscription was definitively declared authentic. This left the ossuary in academic limbo. The legal fight was over, but the scholarly debate continues. Most epigraphers and archaeologists remain highly skeptical of the inscription's authenticity. Yet, the questions raised by the defense's geological evidence linger. So where does that leave us? The James ossuary exists in a gray area between faith and science, between legal acquittal and academic acceptance, a profound mystery etched in stone. The story of the James ossuary is one of the most polarizing in archaeology. The evidence is complex, the experts are divided, and the stakes are incredibly high. So I want to ask you directly, what part of the story do you find most compelling? Is it the linguistic analysis that suggests a forgery, or the geological evidence that the patina might be ancient? Let me know your theory in the comments below. And if you're finding yourself questioning the official story, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we have more historical curtains to pull back. The Kensington Runestone. The standard story is that Columbus arrived in the Americas in 1492. But what if Norse explorers penetrated deep into the continent more than a century earlier? This is the explosive claim of the Kensington Runestone. In 1898, a Swedish immigrant farmer named Olof Öhman reported finding a large stone tangled in the roots of a tree on his farm in Kensington, Minnesota. Carved into the stone were runes, the ancient script of the Norse people. When translated, the inscription told an incredible story of 8 Swedes and 22 Norwegians on an exploration journey from Vinland. It mentions 10 men being found red with blood and dead, and is dated to the year 1362. If genuine, this stone would rewrite American history. Almost immediately, however, it was dismissed as a hoax by nearly all runologists and linguists. They pointed out that the runes were a strange mix, inconsistent with 14th century scripts. The language felt too modern, a blend of 19th century Swedish, Norwegian, and even English, not the Norse of the 1300s. The scholarly consensus was that it was a modern forgery, likely made by a Scandinavian immigrant. Suspicion naturally fell on Öhman himself. For decades, the stone was considered a joke in academic circles, and yet the debate never completely died, thanks in part to geological studies. Proponents of the stone's authenticity point to its weathering. In 2003, geologist Scott Walter concluded that the inscription showed significant decay and was at least 200 years old, meaning it had to have been carved long before Öhman found it. This geological analysis directly contradicts the linguistic analysis. One field of study says it must be old, the other says it must be new. This creates a fascinating conflict. Do you trust the linguists who insist the words and letters are all wrong? Or do you trust the geologists who say the stone itself shows signs of age? Today, the overwhelming majority of historians and linguists remain convinced the stone is a 19th century fabrication, arguing that the geological evidence is not conclusive. The Kensington runestone remains a monument to either a forgotten Viking expedition or one of America's most persistent hoaxes. The Acambaro figures. What if dinosaurs didn't die out 65 million years ago, but actually walked the Earth alongside humans? It's a radical idea, but in the 1940s, a collection of over 30,000 artifacts was found in Mexico that seemed to prove it. These are the Acambaro figures. The story began in 1944, when a German merchant named Waldemar Julsrud said he found a ceramic figurine buried in the ground in Acambaro, Mexico. He hired a local farmer, Odilon Tinajero, to dig up more, paying him for each figure. What followed was a flood of over 33,000 bizarre ceramic figures. The collection included figures that looked like ancient Egyptians and Sumerians, but the most infamous were the hundreds of figures that looked exactly like dinosaurs, a T-Rex, a Stegosaurus, even humans riding dinosaur-like creatures. If authentic, these figures would upend paleontology and evolution. They quickly became celebrated by young Earth creationists as proof that humans and dinosaurs coexisted. The scientific community was unconvinced. In 1952, archaeologist Charles Di Peso investigated and delivered a damning conclusion. They were modern fakes. He noted the figures showed no signs of age, no dirt in the crevices, and the excavation pit was clearly recent. Still, how could one farmer make over 30,000 unique figures? To settle it, thermoluminescence, TL dating, was used to find out when the ceramics were fired. Early tests, done when the technology was new, gave a sensational result, a date of around 2500 BC. Proponents felt vindicated, but the victory was brief. More rigorous TL tests in the 1970s revealed the first results were wrong. New analysis showed the figures had been fired only about 30 years before they were tested, placing their creation in the 1940s, right when Julsrud discovered them. It was an elaborate hoax, with the makers possibly drawing inspiration from movies and comic books. Today, the overwhelming scientific consensus is that the figures are fakes, and even prominent creationist organizations have disavowed them. The Acambaro figures are a classic case study in forbidden archaeology. They show the power of a good story and the remarkable allure of a hoax that feels more exciting than the official record. We've journeyed to the fringes of archaeology, looking at artifacts that challenge the simple stories we know. We've seen a hammer encased in a geologic curiosity, a computer from the ancient world, a mysterious disc, a controversial inscription, a disputed runestone, and a massive collection of clay dinosaurs. For each of these, mainstream science offers a rational explanation, a natural concretion, a surprising display of ancient genius, a ritualistic object, a probable forgery, or an outright hoax. These explanations are methodical and based on evidence. They tell us that most mysteries have logical answers, but can these explanations fully quiet the sense of wonder these objects create? The sheer persistence of these stories shows our fascination with the unknown. They hint that the past may not be a simple straight line, but a tangled story with lost chapters and forgotten knowledge. Perhaps these artifacts are so compelling not because they are proof of a secret history, but because they are inconvenient. They disrupt tidy narratives. They force us to admit the difference between a good story and good evidence. And they remind us that our ancestors were capable of incredible things, from breathtaking artistry to elaborate deception. The truth is out there. It's just often more complicated and more human than the legends.